Welcome to Lansdowne Raw, the voice of the fans. I'm Martin Prendergast, joined by Conor McAvoy for a very special roundup of all things Irish football this week. How are you getting on, Conor?
I'm good, Martin. How you doing? We always say, we think, it might be quite a good week for Irish football, but actually there's been nothing really negative that's really come out, I don't think, but there's things to talk about, which is important, isn't it? That we're getting plenty to talk about, but yeah, I'm good. How are you doing?
Yeah, good, thank you. After Man United hopefully qualifying for the Europa League final last night, an early morning start for us here, but lots of Irish interest, as you said, and we want to make sure you, the Raw faithful, are all on board with what we do here in Raw Towers. So make sure you're not one of our illegal subscribers. Make sure you do give the page a like, a subscribe. There you go. Look, we've got 59% of our listeners and viewers on our Facebook channel who are watching us officially and supporting us very nicely. We do appreciate your support, but 41% of you, don't be one of those losers in life. You're not subscribing. All we need you to do is hit that subscribe button and then log into your family's email accounts and make sure they subscribe as well, and then you'll get the latest news notifications of when we're doing shows. And if you are new to Lansdowne Raw, just make sure that you are aware of what we do. We are match-going fans who go to Ireland games home and away. We also have a League of Ireland show covering all aspects of Irish football, and that's what we're going to bring you today with our very interesting show, I think, Conor, because there's been a lot of things happening in Irish football. We're on the verge of the end of the season, but also it's soon going to be an international window upon us, and lots of interest in Irish football, as we know. So we're going to start off, first of all, we're talking about our Ireland senior men's international manager, Heimir Hallgrímsson. He's been chatting away this week. He's, I think, been launching the FAI football camps around Ireland, which is a fantastic initiative, obviously letting young boys and girls play as much football as possible, signing up for their summer camps, which, you often get a little cameo appearance from an Irish international might drop in. But Heimir's been chatting away, and very, very interesting, actually, because it does reflect on where we are in our planning for the June window, where Ireland will take on Senegal, and then we travel over to Luxembourg for an away game against them. So, Conor, where should we start with that? Do you want to show the video, or shall we go into
The video's not working.
We'll go to the video. Right, here we go. We're going to show you a clip of Heimir having a chat. Here we go.
I don't think the video is working.
That's the still. Sorry,
a little bit, but mostly no. I have to be honest here. It was really tough to find opponents in this window because of a lot of nations have already started the World Cup prep. So, and there is a Nations League playoffs and stuff. So a lot of nations are occupied this month. So I have to give the association a really big up for picking Senegal to come here. Yeah. I know it was not easy, but is a really good match, and we are going to the World Cup, so it's good to play a team from a different continent. Yeah. So in a preparation for the World Cup, and it's just, I think Senegal is loaded with individual talents. It's a team that's very quick, counter-attacking. They have amazing kind of attacking actions, looking at them and analysing them. So it's going to be a really interesting game. We are going to be tested in many areas.
Oh, that's Heimir having a chat about, obviously, Senegal travelling over to Dublin for that international match. And one thing I would question with that, Conor, is I'm the Mr. Positive of Irish football, not Heimir. I love the positivity of him, actually. We're going to the World Cup. I mean, what confidence that is. I mean, that's a great message, isn't it, to these lads who, perhaps some of them now, we're going to chat later on about how some of the boys have been getting on this week, how their seasons have gone in the Championship and League One, etc. But, he's given them a big build-up now, hasn't he? The positivity for that camp when they join up in June is there, because we are going to the World Cup.
Yeah, we are going to World Cup. I could see, if anyone has watched the video, when we can see each other's face in the bottom of our screen when Heimir was talking there, and you could see Martin's face lighting up when he said we're going to the World Cup. But listen, I've said it. We are going to this World Cup. It's just written in the stars that Ireland's qualifying for this, with the way football is and where Irish people are in. I know it's in Canada and Mexico as well, but particularly in the States. Well, Canada has a large majority Irish people there as well, but I think it's just written in the stars that we get there. We're building a very nice squad. I think we're trying to get players in. I don't know whether he's eligible players or not. Well, he did speak about that, but he didn't say he didn't think any would be ready for June. But that's all talk, really. I think if someone's ready to come in, I think he'll just play it off anyway until a squad announcement, because that's the way the FAI operate. They like to keep things close to their chest in case a certain country tries to come in last minute and steal him off us. But no, it was good to see him speak like that. He knows Senegal are top opposition. We know they play England a couple of days after, so they'll look at England as the real headline grabbing game, or the real team that they'll play their full strength side too. But the thing is, with Senegal, they've so much talent that even if they rest a few lads, they'll have plenty of options coming on off the bench, or plenty of options that can fill in. So it's going to be a real test, and fair play to the FAI, as he said, getting a real test in June. We were all thinking, I don't know who we're going to get. We're going to play someone that, other than obviously Luxembourg, will probably be a confidence booster, or just a way of getting a win away from home again. But no, as he said, it's going to be a real challenge, and something that I think we'll all look forward to, because it should be a game that will sell a decent amount of seats at the Viva, and we can win. If we can win that game even, or get a good result and have a good performance, I think it'll build a lot of momentum into June or into September, particularly. Which I imagine there'll be a few new names in the squad.
Yeah, and we're looking forward to that, of course, and we'll chat a little bit of speculation of who may be eligible or coming into the squad. But it's very interesting that you had the chat. It's the first time we've heard from Heimir for a while, obviously since the last games, and I think he covered lots and lots of things. I think what he's done really well, though, I think from the videos I've seen of him interacting with kids and everything like that, done a small little coaching session. I know it's all promotion for the FAI football camps, but speaking with the media. We've had the kind of topsy-turvy time again recently with Mark Canham leaving the FAI. Lots of speculation about other things and changes and things like that. A lot of kind of negative news in a way, but I think it's fantastic to see him really embracing kind of Irish culture and meeting these kids and showing them some football skills, and being out there as the Irish international manager, because it means so much, I think, to young kids and inspiring them. And another thing he obviously was asked about, I mean, this is some great clips there from Off the Ball. He did say that he spoke to Stephen Bradley, which again was a person probably quite critical of the FAI and some of the development plans and things like that, and their lack of interaction with the League of Ireland. So he did say, just to quote him here, yeah, we had a chat over a coffee, not a pint. He was driving. It went really good, and I think he would say the same. If he does well, it helps us. If we do well, it helps him. So that's a real positive thing to hear, of course. And, I think he's just really embracing the Irish culture, as I said, and understanding football, which is so important, and making sure that, everyone should be working for the betterment of Irish football. And, yeah, look, the FAI are always going to be under scrutiny and criticism. That's just it. So will Heimir because of results. But, I think that's a positive, isn't it, Conor?
Yeah, it is. We need everyone on board in the country. Like, there's so much negativism, or a split really between people involved in the head of football in the country and the League of Ireland. And the thing is, no matter who you have, even as the CEO, director of football in Ireland, the manager is still going to be looked at as that main figurehead, that main talks person. And if he can have a good relationship with, I know Duff is a bigger name than Stephen Bradley, but in terms of managerial circles and in terms of the coaching setup and the side of things in Ireland, Stephen Bradley is probably he's the most successful at present. Obviously, Stephen Kenny's had, but in current League of Ireland times, and he's very outspoken. You can tell he speaks honestly. It's not like he's a bad fella. He just speaks honestly what he thinks. And I think if he has a good relationship with Heimir, it'll develop things with other managers. Like we seen Heimir when he went up to Derry to watch Derry a couple of weeks ago. He had a picture with himself and Tiernan Lynch, two of them smiling. So he seems to be making a big plea of appealing to League of Ireland gaffers, especially the ones like a lot of people would, I think, once they hear the criticism of, say, Stephen Bradley criticising Heimir, a lot of managers would just say, F that guy, I'll move on, I don't care about him. But Heimer's went out of his way to obviously speak to him, pick his brain and see where things can improve, particularly probably on the League of Ireland side of things coming to the international setup.
Yeah, I think that's important. Obviously, like we spoke about Mark Canham on previous episodes, which you can get back in the back catalogue. They're all on YouTube, of course, on our channel. So make sure you've subscribed. But we spoke about Mark Canham leaving the FAI, and also we are suggesting here at Lansdowne Raw that there has to be a bit of a PR initiative here. We want to hear from the manager. We want to hear from senior management. David Carell obviously spoke as well. these big personalities in Irish football who are making key decisions, we do need everyone on the same wavelength. As I said, though, just to emphasize as well, they're not beyond scrutiny. We will call them out on this independent football podcast because, we are the voice of the fans. We have a live show on Sunday or Monday night weekly where we do hear from you and we get your views, and we're free to say whatever you want within reason. As long as it's respectful, of course. I don't want to be classed as being censoring again, Conor, as some people have said in the past. But, it's all got to be positive for Irish football. He did actually speak about Mark Cannam's departure, just saying what a good guy he was, always found him professional. That's what you'd expect from a football administrator, I think, at that level. And, he just emphasised that he is trying to help Irish football to improve. And, time will tell if Mark Cannam's been successful with that implementation of the football pathway. One thing, obviously, we're going to talk a little bit more in depth about now is I found this was intriguing. Coming into these games now, Senegal at home, end of a long season for a lot of our players. We're going to chat very soon about the relegation implications and also promotion implications, especially in the championship, which ends this weekend. But one thing I thought was interesting from Heimir was that he said, he wants to give championship players extended time off because we need everyone fresh for September. Everything's about September, October, November. We had a very good feeling after the March camp. I felt it's a good squad we can build on. By having some of them half fit in June, it can scramble that feeling. What he said there was he's not going to call many of our championship players in. He's going to give them a good holiday rest. Obviously, that's going to allow other possible new call-ups to come in, which is exciting. We speak weekly about, following Conor here at Rep Tracker on X. He's giving insight to all these players who are eligible and how they're getting on with their clubs. It's going to be exciting, though, isn't it, this squad? I'm actually looking forward to it because I think actually ticket sales for the game away to Luxembourg, the application closes, I think, today. And we're recording on Friday the 2nd here. But there's not a lot of fans, I don't think, going to Luxembourg. From the numbers I'm kind of gauging from Risk London members, I think people are keeping the powder dry maybe for September, October, November for the big qualification games. But I think it's going to be interesting to see this squad and how it's formed and who makes it up. What's your thoughts on that, Conor?
Yeah, I think firstly, just on he spoke about the camp that was meant to happen for EFL players next week. It was meant to be next week once because the season ends this weekend and they were meant to go straight into an Ireland camp and then get their holidays because it is quite a break between that and the actual June setup. And there was going to be a chance of bringing in, I'd imagine, lads in the championship, and then you'd have someone like, I think maybe the likes of Luke O'Connell in League One. I would say Conor Coventry, but they're in the playoffs, so he wouldn't have been able to come in. Like even Josh Keeley wouldn't have been able to come in because of playoffs. But which is a bit of a disappointment because it's not the FAI's fault. As Heimir said, it was one of the opponents pulled out, and I'd imagine it was 2 games, and it wouldn't have been financially viable to actually go ahead with these. Probably with 1 game and bringing lads in probably wasn't worth what they would have wanted to do with it. So. And but yeah, it seems that they're going to give some lads off in June. I'd imagine it would have been more lads would have got the June camp off with the fact that there was meant to be this camp next week. But I think he's spot on giving lads a break. Especially look at Jason Knights played every minute of every game. It looks like, which we expect them to win at the weekend, and they'll be in the playoffs, and they could quite easily get to a playoff final, and that's an extra 3 games on top of what he's already played this season. Like that lad needs a break. He has teammates like that, and the thing is, there is plenty of lads in the championship, Martin, that we know would be dying for an opportunity to even come in the squad. I know he's given lads a break in the championship, but that's probably your Jason Knights, your Robbie Brady's, your Callum O'Dowda's that are regulars in the squad that probably would deserve a break, or even like Jason Malumbi. But like, yeah, look at the looks of Boston Lowell, Sinclair Armstrong, James Abankwa, Millie Ali, lads that will be dying to get an opportunity to impress for Ireland. Will probably be thinking June would be a good opportunity for them. And yeah, it's disappointing to have the camp called off next week, but once we see the lads get a break in June, I think it's hugely important that we see fresh legs come in and lads come in. I don't know, we'll see any eligible players come into the squad or not, because the cards are kept close to their chests, and we don't actually know who could. The reality is, we don't know who can come in that's eligible, that's actually good enough, because there's a lot of lads that are eligible that names get thrown out there, and you're thinking, but he's just not at the level to play for Ireland, unless it's at Dewsbury Hall or something of like of real quality. I don't know what way it would be, but yeah, I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, look, I mean, it's a difficult one for the management. He did say that June has always been a tricky window, I think were his words. And I'm harking back to good old days here when Kevin Kilbane was kind of roped in by Steve Staunton, I think, to go to a June window game. In America, I think it was a tour that we did, and that's when obviously famously Joel Lapira got a cap for Ireland, because it was just one of the ones the senior pros could have done without the hassle of it. Different time, and I do appreciate that. But I think some of the Premier League lads will be involved. I think we do need the likes of Nathan Collins on this trip, which is going to happen. I think he spoke about Bazunu as well. He's injured, isn't he?
Yeah, he's injured. Sammy Smodics, the two of them. Ogbene. Well, he said most likely Smodics, but Ogbene, Bazunu definitely. Smodics, we can probably presume. If he doesn't play between now and then the season, I'd highly doubt that Ipswich would let him go away.
Yeah. I mean, this is a key thing now. Like even you mentioned O'Dowda there, I know his season's ended atrociously. Captain Cod being relegated with Cardiff, but the likes of, I think there'll be some players in the Championship who, when they have that phone call or that chat with Heimir or John O'Shea, whoever it may be, as part of the management team, saying, "Look, we're thinking we're going to give you a miss on this one." I think some of them will be a little bit. I'd be a bit edgy. If I was, for example, Callum O'Dowda, I'd be thinking, missed a few squads now. He wants to really cement himself probably as a senior pro in that squad and make himself available. That's what I certainly would do. Not worked out for him in the Championship this year, obviously with relegation. But I think there's some lads, Jason Knight, evidently he's going to be a key player for us in September, October, November. Cemented in place in there. Josh Cullen's another one. I can't see them perhaps being
Finn as
maybe
well, I'd probably
Finn
say as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I think lads who perhaps have just started or have had less than maybe 10 caps in a sense and are just kind of cementing their place in it. I think it's a massive opportunity. Then Rocco Vat is another one. I think them guys, I'd be going, look, I'm happy to just have the 2 weeks and come in for those games, and then we'll manage it the holiday kind of time after. But especially if you want to be part of September, I think it's a little bit of a psychological test sometimes of managers when they do this. Not obviously the ones who are playing playoff finals and things like that. So it's going to be interesting. Obviously, we're going to follow it in great detail. Looking forward to that squad as well. And I think it's a good opportunity for Irish fans.
Just on that, it's a bit weird though when you think of it, because the reality is, say Jason Knight finishes this weekend and they want to give him the June weekend off. Say they lose and they don't get in the playoffs. Surely, if he takes what will it be until the camp is what? The first game's on the 6th of March, or 6th of June, sorry. So basically you'd have just under a month off. I know you'd go away and holidays and stuff, but like I'm sure a lot of players at that stage might want to get back into it if they're like, it depends. I know a lot of footballers are either very split on whether they actually properly love football or not, but some people their favourite thing to do is go away with Ireland, not just for the football, they just love the enjoyment of it. And they might think, I just want to go away and play with the country, like, and get a few more caps, because as we know, every cap for Ireland it's hard to come by because we don't play as many games as other countries. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see what way he works it now with the Championship players.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting. Yeah, like the point you said there. I think if I want to be part of that camp going forward, I'm calling the manager out and saying, look, I'm definitely available. I want to be part of this. And even because you can put yourself in the prime window there as like, I'm a key player for you. Let me go, and I'm quite happy to have a half a game or whatever, but I want to be part of the squad leading them forward going, in future. So, right, we're just going to go on to now chatting about the situation. Sorry, go on.
I think there's what he also said about the League of Ireland, I think is huge. Martin,
yeah, go on.
Just that they were looking with the camp next week that was meant to go ahead. It was meant to mean a lot more League of Ireland lads we probably would have seen come in and get a chance. I thought, like, Josh Honohan, I think still has a realistic good chance coming in, particularly at the left back position, which you think that Robbie Brady and O'Dowda might get it up. You'd think one of them might get them off and they'll bring Manning, maybe Honohan, and I think you'd like to think Honohan would get a chance because he's been excellent for Shamrock Rovers and he's shown at the levels he's played at, he's adapted very well and he's a versatile player. I don't know who else you could see. Maybe Jack Byrne, just because he's oozes class and he's been absolutely brilliant to start the season. Even like a Dara Markey, who's been top class for Drogheda. Even if you look at Galway, Patrick Hickey, he's American born, but he has Irish grandparents, and he's the type of fella you could imagine would actually do quite well in international football because he's quite a unique profile as such. And he said on eligible players that could possibly come in, he said we have a few guys on our mind who we've been looking at. Some are future players, other fringe players. So I don't know who exactly who he's referring to be honest. But fringe players, I know there's Josh Key at Swansea, who I've said about before, like, because he hasn't really had an amazing season, but yeah, he could be one. And just on, he was in Europe there last week. I don't know if that was last week or the last month, when he went and he visited Anselmo Garcia McNulty, Troy Powert, Andrew Omobamidele, John Joe Patrick Finn. So it'd be, I know Troy Powert will definitely come in. Omobamidele, when he's fit, he'll definitely come back in. And it would be good to see Garcia McNulty and John Patrick Finn come in, because Garcia McNulty's been very good for 21s over the last couple of years. He's probably, I'd imagine we'll see that lad go to a La Liga club in the summer or a Bundesliga club, because he's probably ready for that next step, and there's a lot of interest in him. And he's a left-footed centre half, which doesn't come about that often. And then John Patrick, he hasn't played that much over recent weeks. They actually play tonight. Hopefully he'll get minutes tonight. But he is a type of profile in midfield we're missing, and the June window is the chance to take a few of the, probably, because our midfield is quite championship dominant, Martin. So it would be a good chance to see someone like him get in and get a game or two, or get half an hour or get 60 minutes, just to breed someone like that into the squad and see if they can impress.
Yeah, and of course Bosun.
Yeah, Boston. Yeah, don't worry. Boston is back, and he'll get man of the match tomorrow for Stoke, and he'll be called up.
We're also, I mean, look, all those names there rolled off the tongue there, Conor, and that's why everyone follows Rep Tracker. And obviously, Heimir clearly is as well, because that's why
I picked this. Don't worry, I picked the last squad from. I'll pick this squad from.
That's it. He's looking at all these players who are eligible. We've got to try and set him up some way and send them off somewhere obscure to follow some Irish random player who could be eligible. But yeah, look, that's fantastic insight there. Thanks for that. Right, we're going to just come on to the Championship now, because it's a big weekend. In the Championship in England this weekend, promotion and relegation battles, which will impact Irish footballers. So we're going to just show you a quick screen grab here of, this is the promotion situation at the moment. Oh no, I went the wrong one. There you go. So Leeds obviously top with Burnley going into the last day. Sheffield United on 89 points, Sunderland on 76, Bristol City, obviously Jason Knight there, 67 points, Coventry on 66 points, Millwall on 66, and Blackburn on 65, and then Middlesbrough in 9th position at 64. Right, Conor, what's happening?
I think we firstly, because I know someone's going to comment, probably a certain someone saying, why are you commenting about English football? But this is huge for Irish football in a sense. I know we have Burnley and Leeds at the top. We have Josh Cullen at Burnley, with the fact that they're, if basically the needs probably, what's the goal difference? Is massive, isn't it, between the two teams?
Yeah,
it's what. It's a big difference. It's 13 in it, like, so. I don't think, unless Leeds drop points last game, which I'd imagine they won't do, Burnley will need to pick up 3 points in a big win or something. But yeah, it's good to see Josh Cullen get promoted. He actually plays Millwall on the last day, which has a big effect. But yeah, for the Irish point of view, with Sheffield United, with Tom Cannon's already in there. Alan Brown is already in there with Sunderland. And then it comes down to Bristol City, Coventry, Millwall, and Middlesbrough, which is the big talking about. Was like, how's it going to go on this last day? Because the Irish effect on the playoffs is massive. Like, when you pull up the table again there, you look at Bristol City need a win. They play relegation, battling Preston on the last day at home, and a win would seal 5th place for them. So obviously they'd face Sunderland, and we see with the huge Irish contingent they have there at the moment that if they win and get into the playoffs, if they even, like, I don't think, like, if they win the playoffs, to be honest, I think it's one of the weakest teams to win the playoffs in a long time. But it just shows the class that the likes of Jason Knight has shown for them all season, that got them in that position. And I know they have a few injuries at the moment, but they still have Jason Knight, Sinclair Armstrong, and Max O'Leary heavily involved at the moment. So a win there, and I expect them to win in the last day. And then we have another Irish contingent in the playoffs, and then it's the last spot gets tricky. The two teams we don't want to fit taking that last spot, Prendy, is Coventry and Blackburn. Nothing against the clubs, but there's just no Irish players at the moment. I know Zach Lissanen is at Blackburn, but he's been out the whole season injured, unfortunately. And probably another year in the Championship with them would probably do him a worldly good, because I'd imagine he'll get his first team run next season with, and if they went into the Premier League, it would probably make it that little bit harder for him to break in. But yeah, Coventry play 9th place, Middlesbrough on the last day. Obviously, Middlesbrough 2 points behind at the moment. If Middlesbrough win, they would go ahead of them in the race, or if they draw, Coventry would take that spot. But obviously Millwall are on the same points as Coventry with Aidomo Mako and Aaron Connolly, so they'll be hoping that Middlesbrough can sneak a point or sneak 3 points against Coventry, and then it's in their hands. But unfortunately for them, they are heading to Turf Moor on the final day to take on Josh Collins, title chasing Burnley. So I know Burnley they might have been on the piss the last couple of weekends celebrating promotion, but I'm sure they'll still be well up for it. And the reality is they are like the two teams at the top of the championship are miles better than the rest, in my opinion. Sheffield United are good, but I don't think they're the other two's level. And maybe they can sneak, because I wouldn't be surprised if Middlesbrough take a point or take 3 off Coventry. And then obviously we've Blackburn in there as well that could sneak in there. But the ideal thing that we would hope, Martin, is that Millwall beat Burnley and Middlesbrough beat Coventry, or one of the two. We need Middlesbrough or we need Millwall to sneak into that last playoff spot, because that would be dream stuff. But the nightmare stuff would be Coventry winning and Blackburn winning and Bristol City losing. But hopefully we won't have something crazy like that, because it would ruin the playoffs for me, to be honest, Martin, because I want to see as many Irish people in there possible competing for a Premier League spot. And the thing is, if you impress in the playoffs, you'll have more and more eyes on you. Get to Wembley, and we've seen last year Will Smallbone played a huge part in Southampton getting promoted, and it helped his stocks. But yeah, so it's a huge tomorrow at 12:30. All the games are at, so it'll be a good watch tomorrow.
Yeah, of course, all kick off at the same time, and that's important, obviously, to understand that it doesn't work out. For example, for Bristol City, Jason Knight's been instrumental in their fantastic season, and that's where then agents start having a chat with their players, saying, look, you've done really, really well here, you should be playing at this level. It might not happen at this club. I know there's obviously close relations within clubs and things like that, so that's an important one as well. Relegation battle then, how are we impacted there? I know Callum O'Dowd, Callum Robinson have gone down with Cardiff.
Yeah, Callum Robinson, Callum O'Dowd and Joel Began, who've all been heavily involved this season. Michael Obafemi's Plymouth would probably need to win about 15-0 to have any chance of staying up. So I think they're going down, but luckily for him, they're staying up. And from 22nd to 18th, as we see on the screen, it's a funny thing. If every single team there wins, they stay up, because it's in their own hands. Because we start at top with Stoke face Hull City, who are sitting nicely in 22nd. Obviously that's the last playoff staying up place, playoff relegation place, and they have a huge Irish contingent there. They have John Egan, Sean McLaughlin, and Harry Vaughan. Obviously we had a certain Louis Barry, who is hopefully representing Ireland very soon, but he's missed his time there. He joined them on loan, but he's got a knee injury, and they were hoping to be back by the end of the season, but whatever way, the recovery didn't go as fast as possible. So he's missed out, and he's probably been probably part of the reason they haven't gone as well, because I think they played a couple of million to get him in the door. And Hull play Portsmouth, who are playing for nothing. So you'd hope Hull on 48 points can get up to 51 and seal a place in the championship for next season, because we've seen there in the past, Martin, they're very strong Irish roots, and well, not roots but connections with a lot of Irish players there. A lot of Irish players have had great careers there and gone to even the next level as a stepping stone as such, not to offend anyone. And then you have Luton in 21st with Milanik Ali and Mark McGuinness. They looked like Bobby 6 weeks ago they were written off and they were heading to League One, but they've gone on an unbelievable run, and they face off against Mikey Johnson, Jason Malumbi's West Brom, who are playing for Nottingham, who are pretty much on the beach at this stage, to be honest with you. They seem to given up on the season. Tony Mowbray was sacked, and I think we'll see Luton pick up a win. I think we'll see Luton, I would probably say, out of all them teams, are most likely to win. And then in 20th, this is my prediction to get relegated. Preston, who's sitting 49, one above Hull City. They head to Ashton Gate to play our Irish lads against Bristol City. Bristol City need a win to guarantee a place in the playoff, and I don't see a world where Preston head to Ashton Gate and pick up 3 points, or even a point, to be honest with you, Martin, because I just don't. They've lost so many games in a row now. They had that good run in the FA Cup, you remember, and then they lost to Villa, and it's all fallen apart. I've seen Robbie Brady's actually been well spoken of this season. Will Keane's not really had the impact that he had last year, and it's just like, for the team, as you'd always say, battle for finishing 12th is probably that mid-table thing is starting to catch up on them, and I think they're destined, or not destined, but I think they're a good chance we could see them heading to League One, and it would be a sad thing to see, but and the only positive of it really is that Robbie Brady's actually out of contract in the summer, so I don't think we'd be seeing Robbie Brady playing League One, and he's too good for it anyway. I know he's getting on, but he's not a League One player, and he's well above that level. And yeah, I think I think we'd actually might see him miss out on the Ireland camp in June. I think he could be like Alan. If you remember, Alan Bryan done it last June because he was out of contract and didn't want to get injured for his last big contract as such. So it'll be Robbie Brady's probably last big contract in football, and then Derby sit in 19th and 49, which Derby have actually turned around well since John Hughes has come in. But the interesting thing is they play 18th Stoke, who we've seen Boston is back, as I like to say, and hopefully Boston is back. Will show them levels on the last day. But yeah, Stoke, it would take. I know Stoke are only 2 points above Hull, but I think a lot of people would like to think that away from home on that last day tomorrow, I could see both of them picking up a point and sealing thingy. Like what I see happen on the last day, to be honest with you, Martin, is I could see Stoke and Derby draw, and just both of them afraid to take any risks, because a lot of them would be afraid to take risks in case of getting caught in a counter attack. I see Preston losing to Bristol City. I see Luton picking up 3 points away at West Brom, and I see Hull beating Portsmouth. Obviously, Portsmouth is a tough place to go, but I think on the last day, teams will be, I don't know, giving a few young lads a chance. We might see probably Mark O'Mahony start for Portsmouth because he missed quite a few games with injury and then didn't get back in. So I think we'll unfortunately see Preston got relegated. Probably the best case scenario for Irish point of view. I know Derby don't have as many with Aaron Cash and gone, and it's Jeff Hendrick and Marcus Harness there. But Jeff Hendrick signed for him in, I don't know, was it a month and a half ago, and hasn't even played. Been on the bench a couple of times, haven't seen him since. So yeah, it looks like there'll be Irish involvement in whoever gets relegated. But we just hope that we hope it's probably not Stoke with Boston Lowell there, and we probably hope it's not Luton with McGuinness and Ali there. But yeah, Hull as well. But it's someone's gonna be. We're gonna be disappointed by someone from an Irish point of view is getting relegated.
Yeah, definitely. It will be disappointing whoever goes down, of course, as well. And but we'll be following it all on the weekend, of course, and we'll catch up with everybody. With O-Big, it'll be an interesting one on, I think, Monday night. We're recording this week, where we will catch up on how the lads have gotten over the weekend, and obviously the lads who'll be celebrating, who've stayed up or sealed promotion or playoff spots, and obviously the lads will obviously
and it's not just championship, Martin.
Relegation. It's not just a championship. No,
we've League One with Josh Keeley. A win for Josh Keeley and Ollie O'Neill last day for Leyton Orient would seal a playoff spot for them from what has been probably the biggest turnaround in League One this season where they went. And a victory for them on the last day would seal a place in the playoffs. But the reality is, if they don't get it, Noel Hunt, who's done a very good job at Reading, who we don't know what's going on at Reading, whether they're even going to be a club or not anymore. If Leyton Orient fail to take 3 points tomorrow and Reading win, Reading will see that last place in the playoffs. Leyton Orient go away to Huddersfield, who Huddersfield have nothing to play for anymore. So you'd hope that Leyton Orient will go there and get the 3 points. Whilst Reading have Barnsley at home. Barnsley have been a bit of a mess under. I know they've only got Conor Hyran appointed permanently, but they've been a bit quite poor this season. So it would be nice to see. I think it would be nice to see Leyton Orient doing well. I'd rather see Irish players do well rather than the manager not to be offending Noel Hunt, but I think we'd rather see Josh Keeley and Ollie O'Neill in the playoffs for Leyton Orient and hopefully get a trip to Wembley out of that. And then just in League Two, we have obviously Doncaster and Port Vale are both promoted. We have Ian Lawler and Jay McGrath with Doncaster, and then at Port Vale we have Ronan Curtis, once an Ireland international at Port Vale, and the two of them, if both of them win, well, Doncaster are a point ahead at the moment. So if Doncaster win the last day, they win the title. But it's more interesting now with who will get third, because in third at the moment is Bradford. They have Neil Byrne, Teo Daramola, Callum Kavanagh, Kieran Kelly, and Colin Doyle. So and Lewis Richards, Tyreek Wright. They've about 6 Irish players in that squad, and they have all the cards in their hands. Like if they win tomorrow, they'll seal third place in promotion. Like a club the size of Bradford, they've been selling out every game at home, which is mad at League Two level. Against Fleetwood, and they beat them tomorrow, they seal third place. But then there's Walsall and Notts County. King Didsey might be able to turn things around. Either of them can, if Bradford fail to if Bradford lose, Notts County can go ahead of them on goal difference. But if Walsall win and Bradford draw, Walsall can get into third. We've had probably the biggest fall off this season you've seen of any team in any league. But Walsall do have, in fairness, have a lot of Irish players there. They've Oisin McEntee, David Agbui, Evan Weir, and Ronan Morris. So if Walsall went up, you wouldn't probably be too fussed, but we'd probably like to see Bradford go up with the Irish contingent, and they're a big club, and probably that you think they'd get Teo Mola there again next season if they go up. But yeah, it's pretty hectic, Martin. Last day we have in front of us tomorrow, but I'm looking forward to it, to be honest, because it'll be sad when it's over now, because it's the championship, the EFL. I always love it now because there's always a bit of drama. It's hard to predict. I know it's nothing compared to League of Ireland in terms of hard to predict, but it is a very unpredictable 3 or 4 years or weeks.
But also, like the lads are there as well. You've just mentioned all the Irish interest. A lot of our listeners, I'm sure, wouldn't know. I'll be putting my hands up. I have to follow you, Conor, to find out all this, and I've just sat there in silence listening to it because I'm amazed at your knowledge, as I always say. And yeah, fantastic insight. And yeah, we will be following it. We'll be chatting the fallout of that. You mentioned as well there, Conor Houraghan, as a manager now at a club level, and another Irish appointment with Swansea. I'm just going to put up Alan Sheehan here. He has just been appointed full-time now, manager of Swansea in the Championship. So I want to wish him the best of luck. What do you know about him, Conor?
In terms of a player, I think he's probably before my day. I think, Martin, I think you could probably tell me more than him. Wasn't he at Brentford? Was it Brentford he was at for a while? And obviously he's gone into the management side of things. He's from Westmeath, and I think it's not that often we see a Irish manager come out of Westmeath and do well for himself. And he was when he was brought in as, well, he was already at the club, but when he was made interim manager for Swansea in February, I don't think many people thought he'll just be a short-term thing until they get a full-time manager. But he came in, and before he was made permanent, he won 7 out of 11 games, which is, he took them from a position of worrying about being relegated to being nowhere near it in the end, and getting a club, probably a group of players, fans behind a manager that it is hard to come in as an interim and make a huge love for fans, because fans want to think they want just someone new and someone shiny, but they're all behind him and they're delighted he's been appointed. And I think it's well deserved that we have an Irish manager, a young Irish manager as well, that come in to get his first job at a championship club. And you think if he does well and next 2-3 years with them, Heimir could eventually leave or step aside, and that could be his chance to come in and take the reins for Ireland. I don't want to say that because you want him to do well at club level first, but no, it's excellent to see, and it's brilliant to see Alan Sheehan getting the full-time job at Swansea. I'd like to think you'd know more about him as a player than me, Martin, because it's a bit before my day.
And I'm quite happy to put my hands up. I've seen his former Irish under 21. So, but you know, like we said, there, just overall, we want to see as many people who are Irish involved in the game here. Their profile's massive. I know the League of Ireland, fantastic with the profile there with Damien Duff and how exciting it is, and we must draw everyone's attention that we do a League of Ireland show. With the weekly kind of reviews and previews of games there. So, but look, I think it's fantastic. Even mentioning Noel Hunt, I think these lads have kind of done their time underage levels as well, earning their coaching badges in England, and they're having a go at it. And fair play to them. And I think it'd be interesting as well, just that little bit of Irish bias link. Sometimes he'll have a transfer window now that he's got to try and negotiate. And Irish people do have a tendency to look after each other, don't we, Conor? I mean, I know that Dave looked after you on many of your trips recently. So that is a thing I think that would be relevant to when you're having chats about transfers and players who are available. He'll be looking at. I'm sure Alan Sheehan will be looking at some of these players who perhaps may go down from the Championship and be thinking, I can possibly bring you in because you're experienced and stuff. I don't think that will happen with the Cardiff contingent, because I don't really think they're going to be welcome at Swansea, to be honest. But it's something obviously we'll monitor going on. We're going to wrap up very, very soon, but I wanted to focus on one last thing there, which was the performance of this player, who I think is absolutely incredible now. He's getting the ratings. Everyone's raving about him, his performances, getting assists, man of the match performance against Nottingham Forest last night for Brentford. And it's Nathan Collins. This is the new Commander-in-Chief. Tell me what you think about this man.
I think he's the best thing I've ever seen. Best thing since sliced bread. Or Maldini? No, but he's absolutely brilliant, Martin, isn't he? He's top class. He's getting better and
Yeah.
better every week. People seem to jump on him because he hasn't played that well for Ireland, but we have seen his good moments for Ireland. He's had a few bad moments, obviously, over recent time, and recent time lives in the memory more than what he done maybe a year or two ago. But no, I think he's absolutely brilliant. I think he has everything to go on to be a top player, and like, I think he already is a very good player, and it's just getting that next step, whether it's club wise or Brentford step up in the league and get into Europe, somehow sneak in by the end of the season. But no, I think he's absolutely brilliant. He has everything: coolness on the ball, passes through the lines, can carry the ball out of defence, brilliant in the air. It wins all his duels. People don't really get past him 1v1. So I don't see anything in him that I think is a real weakness. Obviously, he switches all the time, with Dave likes to emphasise, but he doesn't really do it for Brentford. We'd never see him really do it for Brentford. He's always excellent for Brentford. So, like, he got an assist last night. Everyone raving about how good he is, showing Murillo and Milenkovic levels to this game. And he's hopefully you'll see someone. I don't know whether Brentford would want to sell him out somewhere, but hopefully we'll see someone at least come in and offer a decent sum for him, that he, even if they reject it or not, or someone doesn't pay the value, at least we can see someone like a top club or a very good club thinking, yeah, we rate him, and he gets a bit of I don't know, bit of praise for what the level he's been playing at.
Yeah, he's an interesting one. Look, 24, he's been captain of Ireland now a few occasions as well. Proper leader, I think, kind of stepping out. And, tactically, we tried something with him at Wembley. It didn't work out ultimately with the sending off and things. But, and I did, I put my hands up, ironically, as he did when he came over apologising for the performance. I don't think he was actually at fault for much of that night. It was just obviously the kind of mentally, I think the team went a bit wrong, but I don't want to focus on those negatives. Since then, I think he really has stepped up, and I think I like it that, you're seeing him in interviews as he did last night with Sky after the game, really positive about Brentford and the season they've had and what their aspirations are to try and get into Europe. You can see he's a very popular lad with his teammates. We can see that in the Ireland squad as well. And, there's been, speculation linked with Arsenal and stuff. I think there's a big move definitely there. I'd love to see him playing Champions League football, or in Europe anyway next year, which he may well get with Brentford at the end of this season with a few games to go. But, all great plaudits for him ultimately. And I think a really sound lad. He's physically imposing, like you said. I mean, people rave about Van Dijk, don't they? And, I'm always critical of him, overhyped massively. But I think here, Nathan Collins is a future, full-time Ireland captain. I think it's going to be incredibly important to us trying to qualify for these games coming up, and I can see him being a key person at these squads now in June, because I think he's a leader now of the squad. Seamus has been fantastic, obviously a captain, but I think he's more captain in name now. I can't really see him coming back in too much. It'd be interesting actually on the squad in June where Seamus is fitness wise, whether they do bring him in on that. Actually saying it there out loud, but I think Nathan Collins will be one of those in that squad in June. And he'll be someone that you can look up to. And even, we look at the Premier League and how competitive it is. You do see, these teams who are, not the big names, but they can get into Europe. And again, it raises the player's profile. So, yeah, fantastic. Brilliant to see him getting man of the match, of course. So, yeah, really, really good. Anything else, Conor, before we go? Anything of interest?
No, I don't think so. I think that's it, unless you have some breaking news for us, just to celebrate Dave not being on is always good. But no, it's been good to chat about this, and excited for the weekend ahead of Football League of Ireland tonight, and then watching the lads abroad at the weekend, because it's really starting to heat up with the big day tomorrow.
Yeah. And just before we go, you can support the page with us, buy us a coffee. The link is in our description there, so we do appreciate your support. We are obviously independently run here. The three of us run the whole show here, Lansdowne Raw, Lansdowne Road, and we do appreciate your support. We've just over 2,000 subscribers now, so we do need you to subscribe, like, tell all your friends that we are the most interactive Irish football podcast out there. Thanks for watching along this today, and come on, you boys in green.